Cogging is a big topic in the DOF Reality community, and Robert L. came up with an aftermarket mod that addresses this issue. There's a lot to like about this mod, so let's talk about it. Welcome everyone to Get Your Game On, the channel dedicated to immersive gaming experiences. So I want to be right up front with everyone. The cogging issue for me hasn't been a big deal. I have a butt kicker transducer system on this, and that actively masks the cogging to me. And if you're into racing or you're into dogfighting or anything that moves this motion platform really fast, you're not going to really have a big problem with the cogging. It's for the general aviation enthusiasts that are doing the slow rolls and the gradual flight stuff. That's where you really notice this issue. So as more and more flight sim enthusiasts are finding the awesome experience of the motion platforms, the cogging is becoming more and more of a concern. So Robert L. came out with an aftermarket solution, and basically what he found were some new motors and some standoffs and a new coupler system to basically replace the old DOF unit and put this new system onto the SFU drives. Now early on, one of the big issues that we were fighting was there was no really good adapter or flange to mount this new motor to the SFU gear drive box. So some people took their old gearboxes apart, they'd like cut them down or shave them so that they could use that as a flange. But that wasn't really a practical solution, because if you didn't have the gearboxes to start with, you couldn't even start. And then even if you did, you had to have some ability and some tools to be able to cut them down. Well, Robert realized this, so he actually went out and designed a 3D printed flange that he's now offering to the community for anybody that wants to do this. And it is a tremendous help. It was the last piece that makes this mod really viable for anybody that wants to try it. Now, he sent us his flanges for free to test. He developed his for an H3, and we wanted to try it on the H6 and see how it worked. And I can tell you, they work amazingly. We've been testing it for a few months now, and I've done everything from roller coasters to catapult launches to, racing. I've put this thing through its paces, and they have held up tremendously. I just visually inspected them this morning. I don't see any cracking, any breakage, nothing. So I would say if you're interested in this mod, don't hesitate one bit to get these flanges from Robert. I think they'll serve you well. So what's involved with this modification? Well, it's pretty simple once you have all the pieces. You take the motor, and then you take one of Robert's flanges, and you basically mount the flange to the motor, and then you get some additional standoffs and put the standoffs on the flanges. And I will caution you, the one thing we did notice was putting the standoffs into the 3D printed flange, we did notice it starting to kind of dig into the flange itself. So the one thing I would recommend is getting some flat washers and putting them between the flange and the standoff itself. The nice thing that Robert includes in the flange package is he actually has the bolts that allow you to put the standoffs on the flange, but he doesn't have any flat washers. So I would say definitely look at doing that. Once you get the standoffs and everything put on there, you basically get a set of couplers to match the new motors, so they're a little bit different diameter. And I'll have all of these parts listed down in the description below, along with a link so you can get Robert's flanges. And that will hopefully give you a list for everything you need to actually do this modification yourself. Now, I will warn you, we found that the motors that we got rotated the opposite direction of the DOF Reality motors. So what we had to do was we actually flipped the wiring, and we actually mounted black to red and red to black coming out of the DOF Reality control boxes, and that way the motors were all turning the same way. Very important for you to check that on your own rig, but we had to swap the wires to get the new motors to turn properly. So that's what we did, and what was it like? Well, I can tell you, it is smooth. So it was so smooth at the beginning that I literally couldn't feel myself moving. I basically would do a roll or something in the airplane, and I didn't even feel the seat moving. I would just notice all of a sudden that I was tilted over to one side or pitched forward. And it was a really interesting experience, not really feeling the motion, but just knowing that now I'm sitting in a different position. Now, to me, it didn't make any sense to have a motion platform that you don't feel any motion in. So I tried to find a way that I could make this react a little faster. And the answer to that is to adjust the KP value within the firmware, and I'm going to show you how to do that here. Okay, so here we are on the desktop. Now, the one thing that I have to mention here is that DOF Reality does not recommend making this change. They don't recommend you get in there and mess with the firmware. So be aware of that, and if you decide to do this change, just know that it is not recommended by DOF Reality. So the first thing we have to do for this change is we have to tell Sim Racing Studio, the software that actually tells the motion platform how to move, not to reset our KP values like when it starts up. So this is a pretty easy thing to do. We're going to go into My PC, and you just go to your documents, and if you scroll down here, you're going to see Sim Racing Studio 2.0. Now you're going to see I have a Sim Racing Studio 2.0 backup. I created that. All I did was copy this directory and create a backup of it. I recommend you do that, but you don't have to. But again, I like having a backup before I change files. So you're going to open up this folder here. You're going to look for the config ini, and again, we're under Sim Racing Studio, and you're just going to send this, open it with whatever, Notepad will work, whatever you want. And what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down almost to the bottom, and what we're looking for here is DOF Reality. So this is the section we're looking for, DOF Reality, and we're going to scroll down and we're going to say update KP. Okay, that's set to yes. We want to change that to no, and we're going to save it. That's all you have to do for that part. So you're going to save that, and that will keep SRS from resetting this value that we're going to change now when it starts. So you're all done with that part. Now the next step is to get into your DOF Reality tools, and remember this is always good to run as administrator, so we're going to run it as administrator, say yes. Now what you're going to do, you're going to get this port opening, and it's going to be searching for the COM port, and you've got your instructions here. And basically what you want to do is you want to have both boxes unplugged before you do this. So have both boxes unplugged, and then we're going to go plug one of the boxes in. And so once we plug that box in, you can see now that we have the box showing up. And again, only plug one box in at a time. And this is the left one. So we're going to get in here, and we're going to pull this over so you guys can see it. We're going to open the window. Now, this is where the change happens. So we're looking at this KP number right here, this KP 120, and we need to change this. Now, the higher you go with this, the quicker the motor will try to move to whatever position the telemetry is telling it to do. So we have our three motors up here as normal, and you want to make sure you do each one of these. So we're going to start at motor 1, and we're just going to start increasing the KP. Now I wish you could type in here, but you can't. So you basically just do it the old school way. So we're just going to get this up. Now what I found is the KP, the higher the number, the faster the motor tries to move from position to position. What I've also found is the higher the KP setting, I've started to notice a little bit of the cogging come back in the higher I make this. So you've got to find the place where you're balanced between what you're expecting for smoothness and also what you want from performance. So what I found was, after testing numerous numbers, 315 seems to get me back to the performance of the original motors with a lot less cogging. So we're going to set this to 315, and that's all good there. You want to look down here, it says settings have been saved. So that's important. You want to make sure settings are saved. So you'll notice that that is now 315. Make sure you don't forget to do the other motors. So you can see if we go to motor 2 now, that's set to 120. So we've got to do the same thing. We go back to motor 1, it's 315, but you've got to do all three motors. Very, very important to do. So again, you're going to find the number that works for you. I caution you not to go too crazy with this. I have heard of people going up to 400, and it almost throws them out of their motion platform. Also remember, the harder you drive this, the more wear and tear you're putting on the motion platform itself. So, you know, this is a mechanical device, and you've got to be careful that you don't break something. You could push this to the point where you could actually break your rig. So again, experiment with it, but do it cautiously. And so we're going to bring this up here,
And we're going to bring this one to 315 as well. And we're checking, it says settings have been saved. So now we've got motor 1, 315, motor 2, 315. We're going to go to motor 3. So you can see here, motor 3 is still 120. So we're just going to do the same thing, bring this up here. So that is basically the trick to changing the KP in your firmware, in the motors, in the settings. So basically, once you do this, you make sure everything's saved, and you should get that performance. Now, the reason I did it this way instead of changing my telemetry in SRS, it's possible you might be able to adjust SRS itself and get the same performance out of it. But the problem is I have a lot of profiles, and I really wanted to find a way to make this change universally to get this new setup to be similar to the old setup without having to go into SRS and change every one of my profiles. So that's the reason I made the change this way instead of using SRS. You can do it however you want. Again, we have settings are saved here. So now we can check motor 1, 315, motor 2, 315, and motor 3 is 315. And if you want, you can hit the save image if you want. But the big thing is make sure settings have been saved, and that's what we want. So again, motor 1, motor 2, motor 3. Doesn't hurt to double check that, because that will give you big problems if you have the KP set differently for one of those 3 motors. So that's the first thing you do. And then once you've done that, now we're going to go ahead and go unplug this box, and I'm going to plug the other box in. I like to keep only one box plugged in at a time, so I'm sure I have no issues whatsoever with which box I'm adjusting. So now you can see we've changed the boxes out. I've unplugged the original one, and we have the new one here. So we're going to click on this, and same thing. We're going to get this to come in. And what you're going to see here, I've already actually done this box. So this is my original settings. Here you go. They're all at 315. So that's what you're looking for. So when you do this yourself, when you go to the new box, you're going to find these will still be at 120. Just change them like we did, but I figured you saw how we did that, so I didn't need to actually do it for both boxes again. So there you go. That's how you change your KP settings on the DOF Reality platform.
So once we got the KP value all adjusted, basically this thing was behaving very similarly to the original motors, albeit without feeling the cogging. Now, one of the things I did notice, however, was it didn't quite have the same punch. It was a little bit of a different feeling, a different motion. And the other big difference was, boy, these things are loud. You can hear them tremendously. Even when I had the VR headset on, I have the Crystal and I have the DMAS turned all the way up. In a fast motion, I can still hear the gear drive going when this thing's moving with this new setup. Now, what I did was I did a comparison video. So I'm going to show you here basically the old motor, and we're going to jump on a roller coaster, and you'll see side by side what the old motors did and how they performed along with the new Roberts mod. And what you're going to see here, I even captured some cogging, and you'll see I'll throw a circle around it right at the end of the first clip, and you'll know what I'm talking about here. Keep an eye on the decibel meter. So again, the decibel meter is in the lower end of the frame, and so you can see for yourself how much louder these other motors are. I'm going to swap the audio between the two, and you'll see which one's playing, and you'll hear the difference. So let's take a look. So as you can see, with the KP value turned up, I can get this platform to move very similarly to what the original DOF Reality motors were moving the platform at. So it was very, very interesting. After I did that, my experience was definitely better in the motion. And it basically, I noticed the loudness of the motors. Again, these were designed to be on an H3, so they only had 2 of these. Putting 6 on your motion platform, it is definitely loud, as you could see by the decibel reading on there. It also lacked a little bit of punch to me. So, and it really threw me because looking at it visually, it looks like the motion is about the same. But for some reason, there was just, for lack of a better term, there was a lack of punch in the movement. And so I reached out to Jeff Weaver, as you guys know, is the SRS tuning guru, and we talked a little bit about it. And Jeff felt that maybe because the motors turn at half the speed of the original DOF motors, and because they also have a gearbox on them that reduces the movement by another 4.25, that maybe what I'm feeling is because the motors can't quite reach where the telemetry is telling it quite as fast. So it's not quite as crisp a feeling as it would be with the faster DOF motors. The way I think I'd explain it to you is, think about if you have a piece of music that you really enjoy, and you put on your really high-end headphones, they're 7.1 surround sound and all that, and you listen to that music and man, it sounds amazing. Well, you can take that exact same music, and if you put on a budget set of headphones, you might not get that same experience. Even though the music playing to them is exactly the same, you might not hear all the highs quite as well. You might hear some more muddled sounds. And I think that's what you're getting out of this no cog mod. I think you're losing some of that high fidelity. Now, is it terrible? Absolutely not. It gives you, I'd say, 90% of the experience that you get from the originals. But if you're looking for that absolute similar replacement to the original gearboxes, this doesn't quite do it. Racing was fine. I mean, again, everything felt pretty good, but it just was lacking. And I noticed it the most in my catapult launches, because I love those, and I noticed it in Elite Dangerous when I hit the thruster and was doing like a afterburner type maneuver. So that's where I really noticed that lack of fidelity or punch, as I call it. Now, who do I think this mod's great for? Well, I think it's perfect for anybody that's doing general aviation and absolutely just hates that cogging feeling. It's a pretty simple mod to make. And again, it's about as close to plug and play as you can get once you get everything assembled. One concern I do have that I have to mention here is I did talk to DOF Reality about this, and they actually have tried a similar setup. They've actually found motors with planetary gearboxes in them, and they've tried several different types of motors. What they found was, in addition to the noise, they found that the durability of the motors was causing them issues after about 500 hours. And the problem is, this mod's not really cheap to do. I mean, you're going to spend about $100 per motor that you're changing. So on an H2 or an H3, you're talking a couple $100. On an H6, it's over $600 to this mod. So if you've got a durability issue and it's cost you $600 for 500 hours, I don't know if that's a good trade-off, but that's something you'll have to decide for yourself. Now, I obviously haven't run them for 500 hours, so we're going to have to wait and see. Time will tell if the durability of this specific motor is going to be an issue like DOF Reality found. Me personally, I'm going back to my old motors. I just miss that punch, and I really hate the sound that these make. DOF Reality is actively working on this problem, and I feel fairly confident that they're going to come up with a solution that hopefully will get rid of a lot of the cogging and also might not have the durability issue or the noise issue. So I'm going to wait and see what they come up with, because I would much rather give my money to DOF Reality, who is actively trying to address this problem, than some faceless motor distributor out there that doesn't even know that motion platforms exist. Because I'm taking these motors off of here, I wanted to do something for my community. I appreciate you guys watching my content. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to donate my motors to the community. And because I don't think it's a good solution for an H6, what I want to do is get 3 of my viewers out there that might have an H2 or an H3, and I would like to donate these to you guys. So what I would like you to do is please send me an email at gygomail@gmail.com. The email is always in the description below. And the important thing is in the subject line, please put no cog mod giveaway. So if you'll put no cog mod giveaway in the subject line, and then send me a picture of your rig and just tell me, why you want this mod. Whatever you think I need to know, please just put it in an email, send it to me. You can make it as short or as long as you want, and then I'll read through these. I'm going to give you guys until February 29th, and then I'm going to pick 3 of these, and I'm going to ship these out to whoever I think might get the best use out of them. Now, the only thing that I request is if I'm shipping them to you, I'd appreciate it if you guys would reimburse me for any shipping costs that I incur. But as far as the cost of the motors, Robert's allowed me to send you the flanges, so thank you for that, Robert, and the standoffs and the couplers. I'll even include the electrical connection that we did on ours, so you can put this mod on your rig if it's something you're interested in. So again, please put no cog mod giveaway in your email subject line and send me a picture and just tell me why you think you'd like to try this mod. So with that being said, I also want to let anybody know that if you're doing this modification, down in the description below, I've got a link to Daryl, the master fabricator, actually putting the mod on the unit. Now, it's a raw video that we just shot. I didn't produce or anything, so it's pretty rough, but it's just me filming him basically putting the mod on. But I hope that helps some of you out there that might be looking at doing this mod. So that's what I have for you today. I want to remind anyone that may be interested in a DOF Reality platform, we have a promo code. It's GYGO5, and that will get you a 5% discount on the DOF Reality Motion Platform, and it also helps our channel out. If you'd also like to help the channel out, please consider hitting that super thanks button down there. Any donations will certainly help us continue to make content like this. So that's it. Until next time, I appreciate you guys watching, and remember to get your game on.